So this video is for Integrated 2. This is Chapter 4 MA, classwork/homework number 16. And this is dealing with graphing secant and cosecant. So we got to remember that these are reciprocals of sine and cosine. So when I'm dealing with secant, I'm really thinking cosine. So if I had a unit circle, I care where my cosine is 0 because that's where I'm going to have an asymptote. My cosine 0 at both of those spots. Now, when I'm doing this, I am going to be thinking of it coming from here at negative pi halves all the way up to here where I'm going to have another asymptote at pi halves. And then back down to here, which is going to be 3 pi halves. That's where my normal asymptotes are at. So if I was to take 2x from right here and set that equal to where my asymptote normally would have been at negative pi halves, I work that out and I get x is equal to negative pi fourths. Okay, that's where I'm going to be, where I'm going to start. I could also set that equal to a positive pi halves to see where my second asymptote would be, and that would be at a positive pi fourths. And then I could set equal to a 3 pi halves, and that's going to end up at 3 pi fourths. That's where my asymptotes are going to be. So when they're asking us to talk about all these pieces, I am going to have an amplitude of 2, a vertical shift of -1, a period of 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi, a phase shift of, and if I look here to see where is my asymptote going to start, it normally should have started at negative pi halves, but it's not. It's going to start at negative pi fourths. Okay. And if I add pi onto that, I am going to end up at my last asymptote for this, which is 3 pi fourths. So when I'm graphing this, I'm going to be down at -1, down below that at -2, and 1 above, 2 below that because my amplitude is 2. And 2 above, so that's going to be 1. So my highs for my cosine would have been there. My vertical shift is here. We are going to be starting at a negative pi fourths. That's where my first asymptote is going to be. And my next one's going to be at pi fourths. So I'm going to do that. And halfway in between is my y-axis. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this again is negative pi fourths. This is positive pi fourths. This is 3 pi fourths. That's where my asymptotes are. I am going to draw them in. So let me... And I'm going to take that, see if I can just grab that. See if I can just grab the purple. And I'm going to have one at pi fourths. And I'm going to have one at 3 pi fourths. And then again, I was starting down here. And when I'm going around this, what you want to notice is as I'm going around, going this direction, this is going to be 1. This is going to be -1. So what that is letting us know is that when I'm graphing this, I am going to be starting here at the 1, down here at the -3, and this is going to be opening up, And this is going to be opening down. On number 2, for this, again, it's going to be the same as the one above. So what I want to focus on is where are we going to have our zeros for cosine, here and here. So again, I'm going to go from negative pi halves to pi halves back down to 3 pi halves. My amplitude is 1. My vertical shift is a 1. My period is 2 pi divided by b, so 2 pi fourths or pi halves. And my phase shift, so to find my phase shift, what I'm going to do is I am going to take 4x and set that equal to where I should normally start, which is at negative pi halves, and I'm going to get x is equal to negative pi eighths. Then when I set equal to a positive pi halves, I'm going to get a positive pi eighths. And then when I set equal to 3 pi halves, I'm going to get 3 pi eighths. So this one is going to be going up 1. And then I'm going to go up 1 from there and down 1, so I'll be at 2 and 0. So for this one, my vertical shift is here. My highs are at 2 for my cosine, and my lows are at 0. And again, I'm going to be starting at a negative pi eighths. And then I'm going to end up at a positive pi eighths. So halfway in between will be my y-axis. And then halfway in between those. And then we're going to end up at 3 pi eighths. So if I take my asymptote, I'm going to have one here at pi eighths, here at positive pi eighths, here at 3 pi eighths. And on both of these, I did not write my asymptote equations. You want to. So let me just refresh up here. This one should have been x is equal to negative pi fourths, x is equal to positive pi fourths, and x is equal to 3 pi fourths. So on this one, this is going to be x is equal to negative pi eighths, x is equal to pi eighths, x is equal to a 3 pi eighths. Now to graph this, this is a negative 1. So what's going to happen is I am going to be starting on the low and then the high. And that's your graph. There you go. So again, another secant. So when I'm dealing with this, for this, I'm going to take 2 times the quantity x plus pi 6 and set it equal to a negative pi halves, because that's where I'm normally. So I'm going to have x plus pi 6 is equal to a negative pi fourths. I'm going to minus pi 6 from both sides. When I do, that's going to be a negative pi fourths, and then minus pi 6 would really be, well, let me just write it out. A pi 6. So that is going to be a negative 3, because I'm going to make these into 12ths. Pi 12ths minus 2 pi 12ths, which is going to put us at a negative 5 pi 12ths. So then when I do this, I'm going to redo this problem, but this time I'm going to set this equal to a positive pi halves. So when I do that and I change that to a plus, that is going to be that. That is going to be that. That is going to be that. I'm going to end up at a pi 12s. And so I had let me jot it down here. I had it at a negative 5 pi 12ths. I had it at a pi 12ths. And if I look at the distance from here to here, the distance from here to here is 6 pi 12ths. So the next one's going to be 6 pi 12ths away, which is 7 pi 12ths. Okay, so that's going to be my asymptotes. And so my amplitude is 1, my vertical shift is 3, my period is 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. And my phase shift is going to be negative 5 pi 12ths. So when I go to graph this, I am going to end up having the following. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my y-axis just for a second, okay? And I'm going to have an asymptote at negative 5 12ths. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to be ending at 7 pi 12ths. Halfway in between is going to be my pi 12ths. And then what's going to happen is all of these are 6 pi 12ths away. So halfway, I'm going to be 3 pi 12ths away. So that is going to be at a negative 2 pi 12ths, which is really a negative pi 6. And again, 3 onto this would be a 4 pi 12ths. Okay, so that's kind of where my setup is. Now my y-axis is not going to be one of these tick marks. And so my y-axis is going to be closer to this than the other side. And I'm going to have my asymptotes. So let me just grab an asymptote. I have one here. I have one at pi 12ths. And I have one at 7 pi 12ths. Okay, so those are going to be my asymptotes. And for this, we were going to start up at 3. And we're going to be going 1 below, which is 2, 1 above, which is 4. So when I'm drawing this, I am going to be coming up to my 4 and going up. Over here, I'm going to be coming to my 2 and going down, and that's my graph. On number 4, we're dealing with a cosecant. So this time I want to be thinking about sine. Where is my sine 0? And my sine is 0 here at 0, at pi, and at 2 pi. So I'm going 0 to pi and pi to 2 pi. So that's where my asymptotes normally are. So if I take my 3x here and I set it equal to 0, I get x equals 0. When I take my 3x and I set equal to pi, I get x is equal to pi thirds. And when I take my 3x and set it equal to 2 pi, I end up getting 2 pi thirds. So when I'm graphing this, Let me just add my amplitude is 2, my vertical shift is -4, my period is 2 pi divided by 3, so 2 pi thirds, and none for my phase shift. Okay, so I'm going to be dropping this down. So I'm down here at -4. I'm going 2 above, which is -2. I'm going 2 below, which is -6. This is my low, my vertical shift. This is my high. This is my low. We're starting at 0 and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're ending at 2 pi thirds. And then partway through, this is going to be pi thirds. So I'm going to get my asymptotes. Okay, so I have one on the y-axis. I have one at pi thirds. And I have one at 2 pi thirds. So again, those equations are going to be x equals 0, x equal pi thirds, and x equal 2 pi thirds. And then when I'm going to graph this, I'm going to come up here to -2 and have it open up, and come here to a -6, and it's going to go down. On number 5, for this one, my amplitude is going to be 1. My vertical shift is none. My period is 2 pi divided by 4, or pi halves. And then for my phase shift, if I was to take this and set it equal to 0, I get x is equal to a negative pi force. If I take that and set it equal to pi, I'm going to get 4x is equal to 0, so x is equal to 0. And if I do a third one, 4x plus pi is equal to 2 pi. I get 4x is equal to pi, x is equal to pi force. So let me get my graph. And I am going to be starting at 0. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be ending at pi force. And hold on, let me just draw that a little better. And then halfway from 0 to pi force is going to be pi eighths. And I also have my negative pi force. Wait, hold on a second. Sorry, I was starting it at 0, but it wasn't starting at 0. I'm starting at negative pi force, then I have 0, then I have pi force. So let me just start fresh here. Okay. So for that, I'm going to be at a negative pi force, a positive pi force, and 0. That's where my asymptotes are. I'm going to have a mark there and a mark there. And we're going to be going 1 above and 1 below. Okay. So I'm going to get my asymptotes. have one here, have one here, have one here. So I end up having one at x equal negative pi fourths, at x equals 0, and at x equal positive pi fourths. And then I'm going to be, because this is negative, starting down and then going up. So on number 6, my amplitude is going to be 3. My vertical shift is 1. My period is 2 pi over 2. And then my phase shift is going to be, well, let's check that out and see what's happening. So I am going to be taking this and setting it equal to where my asymptote normally would start, which is 0. I'm going to get x plus pi thirds is equal to 0. And I'm going to get x is equal to a negative pi thirds. Okay, so that's one of my asymptotes. I am going to take 2 times x plus pi thirds and set it equal to pi. So that's going to be x plus pi thirds is equal to pi halves. Getting a common denominator. Let me just rewrite this. This would be 2 pi 6. This would be 3 pi 6. So I'm going to end up at pi 6. And then if I take that and I set equal to 2 pi, I'm going to get x plus pi thirds is equal to pi. I am going to subtract pi thirds, so I'm going to end up with, from 3 pi thirds, a negative 2 pi thirds. Actually, a positive 2 pi thirds. And then let me see if I try to start graphing this. So I'm going to be starting at negative pi thirds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Halfway in between will be my asymptote pi 6. The other one's going to be 2 pi thirds. Okay, so these are my asymptotes. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in my asymptotes. So let me just get, so I'm going to be drawing it in here, here, here. And let me just finish writing. This was 2 pi thirds. Didn't finish writing that. This is pi 6, so you can see it. And that's a negative pi thirds. So for this, halfway in between, well, let me just draw this. In between pi 6 and negative pi thirds, pi 6 is closer to the y-axis. So it's more than halfway. So let's say it's about here. And I am going to be scaling this. I'm going to be starting at 1. I'm going to go 3 above, which puts me at 4. I'm going to go 3 below, which puts me at negative 2. So if I'm drawing this, I do have an asymptote. Hold on, let me redraw it. I have an asymptote, not an asymptote, but a vertical shift there. My highs are going to be here. My lows are going to be here. Now, this is a negative cosecant. So that means I'm going to be starting here. Whoops, not a highlighter. Here and going down. And then this one's going to be here and going up. And that's going to be my graph.